welcome to Conversations with the Candidates. My name is Kevin Tocci, and the general purpose of this program is to give time to folks who are seeking office. As you know, right around the corner, we have the general election on November 6th. Don't forget, get out and vote. And today, joining us, we're privileged to have in studio is the Plymouth County District Attorney, Tim Cruz. He's an incumbent who is seeking another term in office. District Attorney.
Kevin.
Welcome to the program, although this is not your first time
It's not.
being here. You've been here several times.
Sure.
For those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and the 17 years that you have served as District Attorney.
Yeah, well, thanks, Kevin. I appreciate coming here today. My name's Tim Cruz. I actually grew up in West Bridgewater, a little town next to Brockton, where I was born. I went to the public schools, went to Boston College and Suffolk Law School, and was given an opportunity back in the mid-'80s to become an intern at the Plymouth County DA's office. And when I did that, that's where I really learned what I wanted to do. So I eventually went to the District Attorney's office in the late 80s, worked here in Brockton District Court in Plymouth and Hingham and Wareham before I went out in my own practice, and had my practice for about 10, 12 years. At which time, in 6 weeks after 9/11, I was asked by Governor Jane Swift to fill out Mike Sullivan, who was the Plymouth DA's balance of his term. Mike had been selected by President Bush to become our U.S. Attorney. I was selected by Governor Swift to finish out his term, and from that time I've run every 4 years in the elections cycle at that point.
For the folks who don't know, what is it like to be the District Attorney? What goes on in your office, or some of the things that you handle on a day-to-day regularity?
When I go out and talk to groups about it, and I ask people, do you know what the district attorney does? I often say, they often get that look, that's their vague look, and I'll say, well, do you watch Law and Order? And they'll say, oh yeah. Do you watch CSI? Oh yeah. Well, it's nothing like that. You know, that's television.
You have to spell it.
You know, crime to conviction. 60 minutes with commercials. Every day is different being the district attorney, because now I'm no longer in court per se. I'm not trying cases anymore, but I'm dealing with budgetary issues, personnel issues, administrative issues, and trying to also manage an office of roughly 150 people when you include the 24 state police officers who are assigned to our office. So it's a very big management position, and trying to keep that all together and make sure that we get the resources we need to do our job on a countywide basis.
You talk about being elected every 4 years, or hopefully being elected every 4 years. What's it like putting in a full day at the office and then going out and campaigning and letting folks know what it is that you're doing and that you're hoping to continue to do for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the job. You know that going in, that it's an elected position, and that every few years you're going to have to run for it. So, I anticipate to do that. That's part of the job as far as I'm concerned, but the job comes first. You can never be in a position whereby you let the fact that you're being elected is more important than you doing a job. You do the job for the people and for public safety in Plymouth County. And at the end of the day, if it's going to an event or going to a situation, a scene that I need to be at, I will be at the scene, making sure that it's worked the way that it's supposed to be worked, working with all the men and women who do a tremendous job every day.
What are the real issues in this race for you as someone looking to be reelected? What are the issues?
Well, the issue is really, it's leadership, it's character, it's integrity. That's really what you need to be here and to be in this role. You need to be able to understand the problems that we're facing. I understand the problems that we're facing with the opiate crisis, for one, and the work that we've done here, which really has been leading the nation in a lot of the work that's been going on. As I talk to prosecutors from across America, as on the board of the national DAs, and I see where my friends and colleagues are across the country, they're looking at us to see what we're doing. They're looking at Plymouth County Drug Abuse Task Force and the Plymouth County Outreach Program, which just got an award from the ICAP, International Association of Police Chiefs, a leadership award for what the 27 police chiefs in Bridgewater State University are doing, working together, making sure that we can keep this area as safe as possible. The goal of our task force is to help the people that we can help in the middle that are on this terrible, insidious disease of heroin, fentanyl, and carfentanil. We're trying to educate more kids, and at the same time, we're also trying to hold the dealers and the traffickers accountable. So the opiate crisis right now is the biggest issue, but still dealing with gun and gang violence in the urban sections of our community, because it affects everywhere in our community. It's another really big step.
What goes into being the chief prosecutor for the county? What goes into that?
I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have the experience, and you have to be and understand that you're going to make decisions every day. I've made thousands of decisions, and lots of times people don't agree with you. And like anybody's human, and you try to get the best information that you can. You apply it to the facts of the law that may exist, and at that point you make your call, and you live with that decision. You have to be in a position to understand that sometimes people will not agree with you. And it's not, even though it's an election every 4 years, it's really not a popularity contest. You got to make the call whether people agree with it or not, and make sure that you're doing the best interest for the people of Plymouth County, keeping them safe, making sure we're conducting our investigations, our prosecutions, making sure that we're keeping people safe.
If someone was to sit down and take a look at the numbers in regards to prosecuting convictions, the job that your office does, what would they find out in regards to the success rate and the work that is put in by the men and women who work in your office to keep the streets safe?
I think the metrics are very difficult. I mean, it's easy to count the homicide cases, which I think a lot of DA's offices are really looked at by. And, our numbers show that, since I've been DA for the last 17 years, we've had 241 homicides. During that time period of our clearance rate, in other words, the people that have been arrested, of that 241 is 85%. Our conviction rate is 80%. So I think when you look at those numbers, that's a real high, above average, a national average of working hard together to make sure we clear those rates. But at the same time, you could have the best facts, best case put together, and you could try it, and a jury can come back and find somebody not guilty. It's not to do with lack of effort. It's not to do with mistakes. Sometimes, we use a system which some people say it may not be the best system, but it's a system that we have and that we use, and that people will make sure that they're going to follow by it and abide by the rules and regulations of our Massachusetts Constitution and the U.S. Constitution.
Talk to me about the units and divisions that you have within your office that you oversee and their importance to you doing your job.
I mean, obviously, we have different units and people who specialize in certain forms of prosecutions. We have a homicide unit. We have a family protection unit that deals with all the child abuse cases. We have an internet safety unit now, which we go to schools and talk to kids and talk to parents and try to get in front of some of these problems. We have our senior protection team, which deals with seniors and the enhanced penalties for when seniors get hurt physically or monetarily. And we continue to go to senior centers and triads and groups such as that to talk to them about scams and let them know that it's really important for people to be careful with their information, and let them also understand. I always tell them one of the big scams going on now is the IRS scam, where people call you up and they threaten you with arrest if you don't pay X amount of dollars to this voicemail that basically is calling you. And I always tell the seniors, I say, listen, let me tell you a law enforcement secret. And they get really quiet. And I'll say, you can't tell anybody, but when the police are going to come arrest you, they are not going to call. So they're not going to call you and arrest you and bring you in. There's a lot of people out there trying to bully seniors. We try to educate them so that they understand they don't give away their information, they don't give away their money, because once they do, we're probably not going to get it back.
It's funny you mentioned that. When you had mentioned that about the police are going to call, it reminds me of that near-end scene in Goodfellas where he's getting ready to back the car out and the officer tells him, you put that or I'm going to put a bullet in your head. The police were already there.
That's right.
They didn't call. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. That's the first thing that came to mind. Talking about the internet, ever since that the internet has become a common thread at the turn of the century.
Yeah.
I mean, how has technology, been one of those things that you got to stay on top of the other things that happen, whether it's a felony or homicides? How does that play a role into staying on top of things? And you just mentioned it as far as technology and knowing what's going on. How does the internet kind of play into your office and the role that it plays out? The things that you do as an office.
I think, when you talk about the internet, it's almost like, we're pounding square pegs into round holes because our laws have not kept up with the internet. So therefore, there was a period of time, we actually had a case back in the other section of the district in which an individual was pursuing a young girl online and was doing all that stuff right there, trying to send stuff via the internet. Eventually met her, what he thought was her, at a location where he was arrested and charged with all sorts of sex crimes of what he was trying to do. He was convicted, he went to jail, and the case went up to the Supreme Judicial Court, and the SJC said, we have to throw out that conviction because of the fact that that gentleman was doing stuff online, and when you look at the way that the law was written, it was only written for people to write things by hand. It didn't include, there was no legislative intent about the internet going online with it because it didn't exist 30 years ago when they wrote the law. So we're always trying to make sure we can enhance our laws and keep them up to date with the internet. But it's a huge challenge. We've been trying to change the wiretap statute here in Massachusetts now for the last decade. It hasn't been changed since 1969. Do you think there's been some changes in the world since 1969? But for the life of me, myself and my fellow prosecutors here in Massachusetts have been unable to get it changed, notwithstanding the fact that it would make a lot of sense and it would basically take away and give us more opportunity to go in front of a judge and get a warrant and making sure we do all the things that we normally do, but to get more access into the phones, to make sure we can get in there for, and especially the encrypted phones, which are very difficult to deal with. And myself and my prosecutors friends across the country now are trying to get federal legislation to mandate that basically the iPhone companies have to have a backdoor for law enforcement if we do have the appropriate avenue to get in there with probable cause and affidavits. That would be very helpful to us. Right now we can't get into those phones, and there's a lot of information in there.
Talk to me about working with others in a collaborative effort, whether it's community leaders, whether it's the 27 police chiefs in the county, whether it's someone on the state level or on the federal level and some of the agencies. How important is it that you have a good working relationship and they're a go-to in case you do need resources?
Yeah, it's absolutely key. I mean, cooperation, collaboration, communication, keeping everybody at the table that you can. I mean, we've had Project Safe Neighborhoods we just have right now, but we've had Safe Streets, we had PSN in the past, Weed and Seed, bringing all the partners together, state, local, federal. The Brockton Police, the local police, the task force together, dealing with the DEA, ATF, FBI, everybody at the table, parole, probation, talking about the small group of individuals who are committing the vast amount of crime. When you do that and you target those individuals who are committing the vast amount of crime, your numbers go down. And it's been very effective over the years. But unfortunately, sometimes grants come and go, funding comes and goes, and you can't pay for certain overtimes, and it makes it a challenge, which is why I'm really glad that we just got another Project Safe Neighborhood grant to the tune of $450,000.
It was announced just today, right?
It was announced today.
Yep.
USA Attorney Lelling came down from Boston, and we talked about what we're going to plan on doing. And once again, targeting the guns, in conjunction with the opiate problems, and at the same time also trying to have a path for reentry for individuals who are in jail, trying to help them because 97% of the people that are in jail right now are coming back out. So therefore we have to make sure we try to stop those cycles, stop them go back from that life that he or she was in, and get them education, whatever it may be. Sure. And we've had Corey-friendly fairs to get them jobs, help them write resumes, try to help them and give them a hand rather than a handout.
And I apologize, I omitted Sheriff Joe McDonald. We know how big the Sheriff's Department also plays a role in, along with all those other agencies as well.
Absolutely.
And you've done, other than doing stuff in regards to apprehending suspects, you've done a lot of outreach with the sheriff. I think both you and he do a regular cable access show.
That's right.
Called Breaking the Cycle. It's a fantastic program that we actually air here at Whitman-Hanson Community Access. Talk to me about using access and using the tools to be able to, whether it's local cable, whether it's radio, whether it's print media, to get the word out, to let them know what you're doing. How important is that to a district attorney?
Yeah, I think people want to know what you're doing. They also want to know what you're dealing with, the significant challenges that you face. And there's, like I said before, there's no bigger challenge in dealing with the epidemic of the heroin and the opiate epidemic going on right now. So people need to know what's out there. And lots of times people, opiate addiction carries with it a stigma that people are, for whatever reason, they don't want to come forward, they don't want to be known, they're embarrassed. And I think and I hope that our show, Breaking the Cycle, we bring people in, grandparents in who are dealing with their grandkids because their own kids have either passed away due to opiates or they're in a position where they can't take care of their kids. We need to let people understand that there's resources out there and we can help. And we have Plymouth County Hope, which is recovery centers all around our county. We have Plymouth County Outreach, which is once again showing up after a non-fatal opiate overdose with the police officers and in plain clothes and a recovery coach, trying to get resources to people to get in front of this problem. Outreach has really been something incredibly different. And that you talk about cooperation and communication, having 27 police chiefs sometimes agreeing that the sky's blue is not that easy. So getting them into signing an MOU, they're all really committed, and I'm really proud of their work and their efforts.
It's interesting that you mentioned about breaking the stigmatism of drug addiction, because one of the programs that you did, that you commissioned a documentary with a good friend of mine, Aaron Tebow, was in regards to Peter Marciano. A lot of people know the Marciano family, proud family, but didn't realize that Peter Marciano was dealing with addiction from his days playing football in high school and college. And there was a recent article that came out, but you were able to get a family member like Steve Marciano, who was fantastic in that. Talk to me about the importance of being able to have people talk about that, and how that goes a long way, having other families step forward to seek help and treatment.
I think Stephen Marciano is an incredibly powerful speaker, and when he talks to either kids or to parents, everybody's listening. Right. And I think that I once again I give the entire family kudos, because that's not easy to do. It's not easy to face up and see somebody who you love, who's well respected, has that terrible addiction. But I give them credit, because by doing that, they understand that people can see that if it can happen to them, it can happen to anybody. And that addiction does not have a zip code. It doesn't matter if you live in Brockton or if you live in Plymouth. It can go anywhere. It can happen to anybody. We have to work together to make sure that people understand that there is hope out there, there is help out there, and everybody together can help you if you let us help you. And I think that's the key. There are resources that are available. We can help. Please let us help. And we're there not to embarrass you, whether it be through outreach or whether it be through hope, but we're there to help you. And I think a lot of people are taking advantage of that. It's a long, long road for a lot of people, but people do come out on the other end.
Governor Baker, this administration has worked hard to work on the epidemic, the drug epidemic. And one of the things that we have seen is implemented is drug courts for those who are in the throes of addiction, who might have committed crimes. Where does the district attorney's office play a role? Is that another layer that you are still a part of in regards to drug court? Are you still a common thread when it comes to that?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, in Plymouth County, we have 4 district courts, Plymouth, Brockton, Wareham, and Hingham. Mm-hmm. And right now, we just got our 4th drug court. So we're the only county right now in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that has a drug court in each of its district courts. So we work in conjunction in those drug courts to make sure that the right cases go there, the right people go there. We work in conjunction with the judges, and we try to make sure also that you can help the people that you can help. And sometimes, when you talk to the judges who are involved in drug court, who do a tremendous job, trying to help people, they understand that sometimes the people that are involved in drug court have to go to jail. And they go to jail for a period of time, then they come back out. And maybe that's going to help on the road to recovery. The road to recovery, I think, for everybody is a little different challenges. But I think that when you see with the drug court and the positive effect of the drug court, I'm really hopeful that we're going to be able to, once again, people commit crimes lots of times because of the fact they can't control themselves. And if it is a nonviolent offense, we need to make sure we help those people and we stop that cycle. I think drug court's a great step in the right direction.
On the national level, the federal level, the big conversation is regard to immigration reform. And here in the state, there's conversations about safe communities. I remember years ago when I was fortunate enough to work for a radio station as a news director, and one of the stories that I had a lot of connection with you was regarding the murder of a woman's body who was dumped, and that there was an individual who was here in the country illegally and had fled the country.
Right.
Talk to me about having immigration reform and having ways of knowing if somebody's here legally or not, and being able to have a working relationship if you need to bring that person back into the country.
Well, there's a whole
prosecution.
Unfortunately, there's a whole world out there that it's difficult sometimes to get your arms around. And in dealing with that case with Maria Pelleguacci, was her name, and her son was 2-year-old Brian Pelleguacci, who was born here and a U.S. citizen. They were brutally murdered by this man, Guaman, who then, by the time we found the bodies in a dumpster here in Brockton, that guy was already at Kennedy Airport flying back to Ecuador. He went over there. We tried to get him back. We went through every legal hoop imaginable. I remember dealing with Senator Kerry, Senator Brown, Secretary of State Clinton, bipartisan, everybody trying to get him back here. They wouldn't give him back to us for prosecution. I was very concerned about him not coming back because of the fact they don't have, first-degree homicide here is life without parole. Over there, it's much less. And I was very concerned about that. We were unsuccessful in getting him back. We were also dealing with the family members of the victims. And they were also not documented individuals. So they were very concerned about coming in and sitting down with the DA or sitting down with the police because they were afraid they were going to get deported. what we tell them and what we tell other people who are victims or witnesses to these crimes, if that they are here illegally, we are not going to deport them. We're not going to ask them any questions. As a matter of fact, if they are witnesses, we can get them what's known as a U visa to stay here during the course of the prosecution of that case. People need to understand that we're here to help, and we're not here to make and exacerbate an already terrible situation. So in my role and in my job as district attorney here, we use every tool in our toolbox by working with our state and federal partners to make sure we can effectuate our arrest warrants on the state level. That's what I work with. The federal level is the federal level with ICE and immigration people. They are on a different level than we are. We are at the state level, and I think by working together once again and using the information that we have, we can get really dangerous people off the street.
But if we had some kind of immigration reform in place, would that have played a major role?
I think it would have. You know what? And it's very disappointing. I hope that our federal Congress people can get together and come up with a resolution to this, because you know what? We have to enforce the law. The law is not being enforced as it is right now.
Right.
If you don't like the law, change it. Or let us live with it. Make the determination as to what it is, and we'll deal with it. But leaving it out there, not fixing it, not changing it, is a huge mistake, and it's really not fair to everybody trying to do their jobs and keep people safe.
You, not too long ago, moved into a new building. I know that there was a lot of work that was done as to, do you look around the county to see if there's a good place to move your offices to? And of course, coming with your office also, you have state troopers who work in your office. Talk to me about the importance of having a new home.
Well, I mean, it was huge. We were in the same place for about 40 years, and quite honestly, we had outgrown the place, and it really was not in the greatest of conditions. So we had to look for a new spot. And what we do, because I'm a state agency, I go through DCAM, which is the Division of Capital Asset Management. People have to put it out for bid, and then people have to, if they own like the building where we're at, the owner of that property put in a bid, and other people put in the bids. I think we only got that one. I think 2 bids in Brockton is all we got from the entire county. So our options were very limited, and this was the best building for us because it was a rectangle and it had 30,000 square feet, and we were able to consolidate some offices that we had from 32 Belmont, the annex across the street, the IT portion down in Plymouth. And most importantly for me, it moved our troopers. We have 24 troopers who are assigned to the DA's office. It moved the troopers from the Middleborough Barracks to downtown Brockton. And although they're not doing the police work of the Brockton Police, visibility, presence is a lot. And you know, it's helped the downtown area, and we try to show people that we're there and the troopers are there, so if anybody in the immediate area needs help, there they are. So I think it's been a very positive step. I think the building that we're in now is beautiful. There's been a lot of work put into it. It took me 10 years to get the funding for it, but now that we're there, we're here to stay, and I think that people should be proud of that building, and I think we will be for years to come.
You're successful on November 6th. You're elected to another term. What are some of the challenges that you face in the next couple of years, whether it's as far as crime fighting, prosecution, battling the drug addiction? What do you foresee as some of the things that you're going to be looking to tackle and work on in the coming years?
I think we're going to continue to work on trying to get more resources for the various problems that we have, whether it be the opiate problem or whether it be the gun and gang violence in the city of Brockton and the other progeny towns that we're dealing with. I mean, Brockton, unfortunately, has a tie to Boston, so we have to continue to work with our federal partners. I think you see challenges in the fact that grants have life periods, and that at some point the grant's over, so therefore you can't rely on a grant. You can use what you get, but you can never be in a position where you're going to rely on those dollars, because you may not get them again in 2 or 3, 4 years. I think we have to continue to work together for whether there be drug-free community grants, Project Safe Neighborhood grants, all the various aspects of what we have, and trying to make sure we get the resources for our community. I think we've really been lucky. We've had some great people in our office that have made a real difference, and I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to continue to do that over the course of the next 4 years.
I know we touched upon it just a little bit earlier on, but I know that your office has a number of programs and initiatives, and I'll read off just a couple of them. The Triad Initiative, medication disposal, the White Ribbon Campaign, the Sports Smart Program, even mock trials.
Right.
How essential are these numerous initiatives and programs to helping and giving back to the communities?
I think they're very important. I think lots of times when school budgets get cut, usually the first place they call is us. If they want somebody to come and talk about the internet safety issues, if they're talking about sexting or some other problem has popped up in the schools, or do they want to learn a little bit about the law, about the mock trials or drug education or underage drinking, or the litany of things that we do when we talk to the kids and we talk to the parents. Social host liability during prom time. Talk to the parents about having parties with kids where they provide alcohol and what that potentially can lead to them, not just to terrible criminal sanctions, but also civilly. What can happen if you provide alcohol to a child and that child goes out and hurts or kills somebody in their vehicle or some other way? I think that we do so many preventative things that you really never hear of. Usually if you think of the DA's office, you think that something terrible has happened. And that's where you may see people from my office, you may see me dealing with it. But the good news is that we continue to work behind the scenes, whether it's our drug education camp at Whitman Hanson High School every summer where more than 650 kids go for free, and they get on Olympic teams, and they meet kids from all across our county, and school resource offices. And it's all paid for with drug forfeited money. The kids go for free, and maybe these kids would never go to camp but for that camp. So I think that we do so many things in the community, and we're always there. And I tell everybody, we fund the kids' road races with Dave Gorman over in Brockton. We've been doing that for years. And we always try to fund the drug forfeited money that we get. We take it and we put it back in the community. I want every year to make sure we don't have any money left. I want to make sure we do that. I think our community is important, and I think we should continue to do that and fund the things that we can fund and help the kids that we can help. Keeping kids busy, keeping kids out of trouble is the best thing we can do, and we need to continue to do that, especially in these incredibly challenging times.
Is there any item, we've just got a couple of minutes left here. I think we've really talked about a bunch of different things that the District Attorney's Office does, what it's done under your guidance. Is there anything we haven't touched upon or a little known fact that you want to share with our viewers that you feel is essential to them knowing?
I just think that you should understand that every year there's 18,000 criminal cases in the county of Plymouth, and we have 64 lawyers who are trying to deal with them as best as they can. And all I ever tell anybody is, and I tell the young kids that work in my office, do the very best you can, and that it's important for us to be at our best when sometimes we're dealing with people who may be in one of the worst moments of their lives. Right. You have to explain the situation, you have to be truthful, and you have to give them the information that you can. Nobody can guarantee results in this business. If they do, they're not telling you the truth. All you can do is guarantee effort. And so we give everybody the very best effort that we can and promise you that that's what we'll do. And if mistakes happen in cases, the criminal justice system is premised upon mistakes. All you can do if you make a mistake is to go forward as best as you can, redirect the ship. If I'm the DA, that means if some person that works for me makes a mistake, that means it's mine. If you're a leader, it's yours. The buck stops with me, and you try to deal with those issues as best you can. I think we've been doing that for 17 years, and hopefully we're going to do it for 4 more.
Folks want to find out more about your campaign for re-election, or even if you want to share the website for the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office so they can find out all the things that are going on, what you're working on, please share either one of those pieces of information.
Sure. The campaign website is datimcruz.com. And I ask you to go there, and you can see all of our endorsements from virtually all the police departments here in Plymouth County, the Plymouth County Police Chief, State Police, Southeast Mass Detectives, from all the DAs that support me from across the country, and the sheriffs, and Governor Baker, all those people. I think that's important for people to understand who's backing you. And at the same time, and although I don't know the DAs off the top of my head, we'll be able to get that for your show. Go onto our office website. You'll be amazed at what you see. And go onto our Plymouth County Drug Abuse Task Force website, whereby you'll see the incredible work being done every day behind the scenes with really no resources, trying to work together, bringing in smart people together to make sure we can do things. I think we've been really successful.
Thank you very much for coming in and sitting down with me. And we want to thank you for tuning in to WHCA's Conversation with the Candidates. The idea, get informed and educated about the folks who are seeking to run for office, who want to lead us into the 21st century. November 6th, get out, make that vote, and make a difference. Until next time, I'm Kevin Tocci. Have a good day.